So I'm just going to explain a little bit about what we do. Our objectives here today are to give you an introduction into making molds with silicone. It's a two-part silicone that we're using today. I've pre-mixed things out so that it's going to make things a bit more streamlined today. I want to give you confidence to have a go, make mistakes, and get better. So yeah, get good by being bad. It will eventually save you time and money because it's very self-mixed silicone in the quantities that you'll use for this sort of thing. It's very, very cheap, very cost effective. And we'd love to give you a good souvenir. Some people didn't take theirs home, but what I hope you'll be walking out the door with in about an hour's time is a little silicone circle like this, which is a mold that you'll have designed yourself today. And using that mold, you could make a wound that's like one of these that you can stick onto an actor or a mannequin very easily. Right, commence Dan's rant. What drove us to getting into this? Well, we were applying makeup, we were applying moulage in longhand, and in big events. You do this several times a day, and then you wipe it off the actor. You've got to repeat yourself. It's very repetitive, very time consuming. And if the actor gets called away, like for a little bit, then it could really delay a scenario happening if you've got to go and find them to bruise their forehead or something. It does look cool. It really does look cool when you do it properly. So this isn't, I'm not recommending that you only do this because this is bad. I'm saying that this is going to give you another tool in your toolkit. So lockdown happened, and I needed to be a bit more productive than on a very quiet day recreating War of the Worlds with mini tripods on my desk. So I decided to find a new tool for my toolbox, and we'd heard of other technicians starting to make things out of self-mixed silicone, and to me, plastics and rubber were all it was like magic. I didn't know how it worked, so I was really nervous about trying it. I mean, have I got the right kind of environment? Is it dangerous? Am I going to make a huge mess? Am I going to damage everything? No, to be honest, it's really simple. So long as you've got an Inco pad on a desk, you can probably contain everything wonderfully. I've mixed all this, and my hands are barely sticky now. So we started with splats. So these were just poured into a tray, and as you can see, it's like the evolution of the splat here. We started off with like sort of stakes over here, and then the edges got thinner and thinner, and that meant that we were able to make them more and more subtle. You'll notice that we've experimented with different skin tones. We use pigments, and you can use these very sparingly. It's brilliant because then they become quite translucent. The actor's skin tone shines through, but you can create a catalogue of wounds for yourself, and then when an actor shows up, you can match it to the skin tone. The splats got cleverer. We started doing weird things like setting tubes in them, and we could do things like this. So this is really simple. We just put an NG tube on the tray, poured a splat of silicone over it, and then I got a Stanley knife and made those cuts. So not subtle at all. And because of how I did it, I think I probably pierced the bottom, which is why it's gushing out from under. So if I'd done it in a more precise way, we would have got a far better effect. But it's very much in prototype stage, and that's the actor controlling that. So they very much got that standardized patient perspective. They can be subtly squeezing the syringe until pressure's put on that, and then they can stop, and that the learner immediately gets that wonderful feedback. It helped us do larger scale things. So we need our paramedics to do a big dressing session. So instead of doing loads of moulage, we just got all of our resuscitation arms out of the cupboard because they tend to sit there doing not very much. So it's a resource that's wasted until you realize you need a bunch of disembodied arms with wounds on them. And you give the paramedics all the range of dressings that they might use. So yeah, it helps us distribute that training very easily. We created a dedicated space for it. So yeah, that's the middle of our storeroom. We created this lovely bench, and then Carrie, my colleague, has been organising these drawers so that all the materials are at hand nice and quickly. And she's got a great production line. And so we end up with stuff like the trays and trays and trays of wounds. And we make so many because actors tend to walk off with them. But they're so cheap that it doesn't matter. And as you can see, we create the same wound in various colours, so that no matter what actor turns up, we can match it to them, and it's great for our EDI. So the process evolved, and we started using petri dishes because it allowed us to, make something, put it to one side, pour something, put it to one side, and then it could just sit there until it goes off. So we start with plasticine, and we create the wound. And then we pour silicone on top of that, so it creates a mold. And then using that mold, we can now pretty much infinitely pump out whatever wounds we want. So we're going to move on to an activity now. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the back of the room and collect yourself a petri dish with a bit of blue tack on it and a plastic knife. And I want you to construct, using the blue tack, construct in the petri dish a wound. So flatten out the blue tack in the bottom of the petri dish and then gouge out something horrible that takes your fancy. So ideally, I would have used plasticine, but we had to forget something, didn't we? So one of the reasons we started doing this was because when we went to buy fake wounds, the only places you could get them were selling severed legs, knives in the head, bullet wounds. And it was all too extreme. And nobody was selling a basic surgical scar that needed a dressing change. And it was so simple that we could just easily do it ourselves. I go back to the splats. Those things are very easy. It just gives you a patch of essentially skin color, and you can put a cut in it. It's also really easy to suture up, so you can dress it up nicely, and surgical staples go in really nicely too. So that means you can actually create a surgical scar very nicely and slap it on an actor. And what we use is spirit gum, which is very, very useful. Okay, how are we doing with those wounds? Everybody feel like they've created something suitable? It doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, if it goes wrong a little bit, that gives you a perspective on how it can go wrong. So if you're happy with what you've got, just make sure the outer edges are quite flat. If it's got a bit of a lip on it, the silicone might wrap around it and it might get stuck. So if you make sure it's nice and flattened out in the petri dish, and once you've done that, would you like to come up to this front desk here, and you'll be collecting a part A and a part B of the silicone. And if you'd like to take that, find your nearest sort of Inco padded table, and do like a tongue depressor as well. Okay, so for those of you who've collected already, you need to mix one into the other. It doesn't matter which you mix into which, but what you're going to do is just homogenize it. One of them has a bit of purple in it, and that's to help you see when it's nice and thoroughly mixed. Okay, so I recommend mixing for about a minute. Give it a good thorough stir.
A few moments later.
Once your mixture is nice and mixed, pour it in. I recommend squeezing your cup so that you create a little spout. Now, I think a recommended thing I've been told is to try and get a nice fine pour very slowly into the mold, and this will prevent air bubbles. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out from anybody who's just dumped it in. Once you've mixed the two sides, you've got about 6 minutes before it starts becoming a little less workable. It's not a definite. There was still some that was still quite liquid. Please take your petri dish and tap it on the table a couple of times. That's going to encourage air bubbles to rise to the surface. You probably won't see them. They will gradually work into the middle, I think. Great. So now you should have a petri dish with some purple slime in it. Take photos and whatever you want to do, but just pop it to one side.
Much later.
Has anybody poked their mold yet? Yeah, try. Because so this should be, it's a nice warm room, and we're hoping it'll have about a 30-minute set time. Yeah, so just gently try. Yes. Did you get the nice satisfying sound when it came out? Oh, oh no. So is anybody's not set? If you just like with a fingernail, can't start peeling at the edges. It's not actually stuck to the petri dish. It's probably just wedged in. Yeah, yeah. If the blue tack came with it, just peel it out. That's satisfying though. That seems to have worked for everybody. Is anybody just stuck with some goop? No? Fantastic. Well done, guys. If you go away and use these molds, make sure that you add like a layer of petroleum jelly on the mold before, or mold spray or something. But petroleum jelly's fine. Just rub a bit on. Just make sure it's nice and covered before you pour more silicone on. Because like Andy says, otherwise you'll just get a solid lump of silicone. Because the only thing that sticks to silicone is silicone.